After my last video, or my last sim racing video, about my DIY load cell handbrake, quite a few of you asked in the comments, what's the advantage of a load cell handbrake where you can vary the pressure that you apply in-game versus just a micro switch based handbrake, so one that's either fully on or fully off, which translates into the sim to 100% braking force at the rear wheels, or no braking force, it was just on or off. And with your load cell, you could have 50% braking force, 25% braking force, anywhere in between. And a lot of people were saying, surely you just need to lock the wheels, whether it's 100% to lock them up or 50% to lock them up. Once they're locked, they're locked. Isn't that all you want to achieve? And the answer to that is no. Weirdly, it isn't all you want to achieve. So the easiest way to explain this is to use two completely opposing scenarios. So let's imagine it's a boiling hot summer's day, the tarmac is hot and sticky, your tyres are hot and sticky, and you want to initiate a slide or a drift, or you want to do a handbrake turn. So you apply 100% braking force to your handbrake, or in real life, you pull it literally with all your strength, hard as you possibly can. And the wheels lock up and you initiate your drift. All well and good, perfect. What would happen if you only applied, say, 25% force on that handbrake on this hot, sticky, really grippy day where the tyres have got as much traction as they possibly can? If you only applied 20-25% force, you may find that all that happens is the back of the car dips a little bit, but it doesn't lock the wheels. Now, total opposite of that, it's an icy day, it's minus 10 degrees Celsius outside, the world's like an ice rink, and you can barely stand up, let alone drive anywhere. You go out in your car and you want to do a handbrake turn, or maybe you want to initiate a slide. Most of the time, you don't even need to touch the handbrake. You can simply corner a little bit quick and the back end will come round because you've got no grip, you've got no traction because you're on ice. So what would happen if you applied the handbrake as hard as you possibly could? Let's say you're doing 30-40 miles an hour and you yank that handbrake on with all your force on this ice rink condition. What's going to happen is the car is going to over rotate. You're going to end up pointing to a bush, pointing the opposite direction. You're not going to achieve a nice initiated slide or drift, pardon me, and unless you particularly wanted to spin all the way around, you won't have achieved what you wanted to achieve. Now, this is why having a variable handbrake, a load cell handbrake, is really useful in, say, rally games. Because in Dirt Rally 2, for example, we could be on ice, we could be on snow, we could be on gravel, mud, wet, dry, tarmac, hot day, cold day, everywhere in between. Now, let's say we're on a snowy stage, for example, and you're not going around a hairpin, you're just going around maybe a square right. So you want to initiate a little bit of slide, a little bit of drift, but you don't want to pivot the car right round to be pointing the other way. If you only had a digital handbrake that's either on or off, when you press that handbrake button or pull that digital handbrake, you're going to really struggle with not having the car completely pivot round. You're going to have to very quickly, just like as fast as you can, touch that handbrake, because otherwise the car's going to over rotate. Now with a load cell handbrake, you can just very lightly pull on the handbrake, and because you're on snow and you've got very little traction anyway, to initiate a gentle slide, you don't need to lock the rear wheels. And I mean lock, you don't actually need to stop the rear wheels. Just by applying a little bit of braking force to the rear, you'll unsettle the rear tyres because it's already very slippery and the car will start to slide. Whereas again, we go back to our tarmac situation on a hot day. If you did that, the back of the car would just dip a touch, slow down a fraction, but you're not going to initiate any sort of slide. So this is where having a load cell handbrake has huge advantages over having a digital handbrake that's just on or off. You know, on those snowy, icy conditions, even wet roads, you know, and muddy roads, you don't need to lock those wheels as hard or for as long or even at all on ice to initiate a nice gentle slide. you know, and the low cell handbrake gives you the ability to just apply enough or as much as you need to achieve your desired results. Now, it does take practice, don't get me wrong. When I went from a digital handbrake, just a micro switch, to my analog handbrake, my low cell handbrake, I was forever not pulling it hard enough. And my car was just like dipping a little bit at the back and not actually initiating a slide on the more grippier surfaces, on the tarmac, on the dry dirt, and what have you. And I had to realise now I really need to yank it to get it to break free in those situations. But that really added to the whole experience, and I felt a lot more in control in those situations. Once you get that mind-muscle connection, you calibrate your brain to how hard you need to pull it, felt so much better. And again, the same on the snow and on the ice, where I can just gently, because normally you pull your handbrake, you'd lock the wheels in the drier situations, in the warmer days, in the tarmac, and you'd hold it locked until the car rotates round and points where you want it to point. Then you let go, and obviously you accelerate out of it. So on the snowy, icy conditions, being able to do that by applying just a light amount of handbrake, the car will slowly start to come round, and in just the same way as in the dry, warm, grippy conditions, you hold it for as long as you need to hold it to get the car pointing where you want it to point. Again, if you went 100%, the car would go rip, spin round, and you'd find yourself pointing the wrong way or into a barrier or over a ledge, or unless you're super quick and you've let go. But again, you don't want too much momentum in the rotation, because momentum on snow and on ice means it's going to want to keep going round further than what you want it to. And again, when you can just apply a little bit of force, it gives you that control that you need. So that's the reason why a low cell handbrake, or any form of analog handbrake, you could have a potentiometer based one, and although it wouldn't be responding to your force, it would still work in the same way. If you don't pull it quite so far, it will handbrake less, and if you pull it 100% of its travel, it would handbrake 100%. So any form of analog handbrake is better than a digital one, but a low cell, for me, feels much more realistic, a bit like how low cell brake pedals do. But yeah, that's really it. More control for the situations that require more control, and not just 100% handbraking force, like on that first example, the hot day, the sticky tarmac, the sticky tyres. Then you're going to want 100% to lock those wheels. But in lesser grippy situations, you don't need so much. So hopefully that has been relatively clear. As always, I try and explain things the best I can. Thanks very much for watching, and take it easy.